Welcome back to Breaking Down Storage Tech. Today we're breaking down a 4 game tick stack separator and sorter by Rapscallion and Glotz. So let's get straight into it. This has got to be one of the coolest storage tech contraptions I've ever seen. Not just because of like what it's capable of, but how it does it is so satisfying, and the way it like looks visually as well as sounds is just actually insane. And I know that's a lot of talk, but you'll see once we break it down. So up here you can have just a regular shulker box breaker. So what you can do is you put your shulker box in there, and then it goes through the hopper and it goes into the dispenser, and as soon as it goes through the hopper, it powers this sticky piston, which powers creates a clock which just powers this dispenser a bunch, and then it also ends up powering through this block. It'll power these rails and power this observer, powering this repeater, which pushes the shulker box into the lava, breaking the box and spitting out all the items. And that's one way of having an input to this system. But you can also just have like a farm input that just drops the items either way, or any number of item like yeetification into the system. It doesn't really matter as long as it gets in to this water stream right here. Now, once it gets in this water stream, it'll travel down and get yeeted against these ender chests right here. And this is for alignment purposes, so it gets aligned across this line right here, just above these fence gates right here, and on top of these pressure plates and packed ice. Now, this is the same way you do it with ice and any hopper. Most of people just use ender chests. Now what happens then is it goes down onto this, or the items fall down onto this weighted pressure plate right here. This weighted pressure plate then powers this piston, which moves these two honey blocks as well as these two blocks right here, this observer and this glass pane, and move it over one, because that's all that's attached. And this causes a observer update, which powers this block right here now that it's moved. Once it moves, quite a lot actually happens. Once it moves here, it powers this block and it powers this note block. One thing that this does is power this sticky piston right here, which will power this line right here, or power this slime block stuff right here, to push the items and yeet them across this line really fast. And we'll talk about in a second of how this all comes together once I explain all the parts individually. Now what also happens is once it powers this block right here, that powers that piston, but it also when it powers this block, it also powers this repeater right here. When powering this repeater, it powers this observer, which goes all the way down, or this observer line, which powers this observer, powering this observer, and powers this powered rail line through this observer, which powers this line right here to push this sticky piston right here, which is attached to this glass plane, or not glass plane, this glass block, as well as this stone slab. And then over here, or when this piston or this repeater also fires, it powers this block, which powers this powered rail line. What happens then is it powers these two right here, or these two observers, which go through their own respective lines. The top line pushes this, which pushes all of these slime blocks right here, which yeets the items into their respective alignments, whether the sea pickle or the ender chest. And then this line right here powers this sticky piston attached to these slime blocks, which are attached to these fence gates, which moves them back and forth. Now, the other two lines to talk about is this line right here, which is observing this repeater right here, which will power down and pulse this repeater right here, which powers this powered rail, powering this block or this sticky piston, which powers or pushes these two slime blocks right here, which push this white stained glass. So once all the items get aligned to or onto this block right here, or this glass block right here, this block pushes it and yeets it down. And then the last thing to talk about is that this repeater also gets observed by an observer, which powers this line, which powers this repeater, which goes up and powers this iron trap door, which causes this piston to power, which resets this whole brick by pushing this honey block and observer contraption back to its original place. Now, why does all of this happen? Well, basically, what a quirk about about dropped item entities is that you could say is when they're pushed along a line like this, and this the pressure plate powers this spruce fence and opens the spruce fence, it separates one of those entity stacks. You know how like you can have an item here. Wait, let me get a bit more of that. So if I have an item here, you know how I can chuck more like that and it all becomes one entity. That counts as one entity. Not yeah, here. That's all one entity. You see, that's two entities, but I can chuck more and it all becomes one entity right there. Now, so it'll separate one of those entities on each one of these pressure plates. Now, or because it got pushed. So it gets pushed, and as it powers one of these, it separates one of the entities and moves across like this. And by the time it's moved across and all of these 4 pressure plates have been filled, it will power this piston, which will yeet all of the things into their respective alignments. There will be these two will align to these ender chests, which will align to the right side of the block using the same alignment we used earlier up here on this side of the block, and then the sea pickles will align it to this side of the block right here. Now, why we move these honey blocks right here to move all of these fence gates, and that's to lower the cooldown, because these heavy pressure plates have quite a bit of cooldown, and if we waited for these heavy weighted pressure plates to cool down and then cause the spruce or the fence gate to repower, to unpower again and close, that would be very slow. So what we do is we speed that up by pushing them and moving them back, which allows them to turn off as these reset their cooldown and can be used again. Now what happens is we'll yeet the items back, and then once on this pressure plate, it will power this observer, powering this repeater, powering this slime block right here to yeet them back. So it's basically an endless loop of them going back and back and back until there's no more items and they've all been sorted. Now, the reason we put or have this contraption right here is basically, well, what happens is this item right here will get pushed across and landed right here. Once it's right here, it will get yeeted across by this piston right here. Now, this item right here lands on top of this glass block right here, and this smooth stone slab, once it pushes it over here, will push the item into this block here. So when it retracts, this area it's now where the previous this item here was. So once this white stained glass pushes again, it yeets it again. Now, this item right here will be pushed and land on this block or in this water stream, and so that'll be the first to go. So first it'll be this item, then it will be this item, then it'll be this item, and then this block right here or takes some time and gets pushed against here and does the same thing with the slab trick that we just talked about. So it'll get pushed and this smooth stone slab will push it over here. And I'm not sure about that order I just said. I'm pretty sure it'll be this one, and then these are, depending on the timings, it'll be one of these and then this one last. But basically we do this to just for timings and stuff, so that way the system can run properly. And we wait for the hopper cooldown if all of them are the same item. And so we have them on 2 sides. And basically this side is, this is one module and it's copied on the other side, and then we just stack this a bunch of times. So the reason we have it on go on 2 sides is so we can double the efficiency. We can run this twice as fast, so we can run the whole system twice as fast. And basically what happens is it gets aligned on this block right here, and it uses the property of items floating to get past these gaps right here. So that it'll just be over this gap and be passed right here and continue all the way down and continue and so on and so forth. But what happens is there's item filters right here. These are overstacked item filters. So they only require 1 item, and what then this causes is this comparator to power, because this comparator is taking a signal from this gray concrete right here, which is, or not gray concrete, this block of redstone right here, which is powering this redstone line, which is keeping this trapdoor closed as well. Now it's taking the signal, so only when this gets fully full will this power. And when this powers, it'll power this block and send 2 signals. The first signal right here is to push this slime block down, which removes this redstone block, which unlocks this dropper, this hopper right here by unlocking this dropper. So the item that was just in it gets filtered out and it gets put into this dropper right here. And what happens then is when this repowers, because the system will empty and close back up, it will power this dropper right here, spitting it out and spitting this dropper again, spitting it out right here, landing in the water stream and pushed against this white stained glass pane and fall down right there. Now what also happens is this sticky piston gets powered, which powers this honey line right here, moving all of these blocks up right here. Now what this does is quite a few things. One thing that it does is it powers this redstone wire. It no longer blocks this connection right here, which allows this redstone wire right here to power, which will power this trapdoor right here, and it will power it and stop all of the previous items in its place right here. So all of the same stack, and once all of the same item stack is like put right here because of the delay between these two, then at the with the delay that's added by this observer, this redstone block will move up, which will power this redstone wire, powering this powered rail, which will power this observer and push this entire thing down. So that basically stops the items from floating near the top and yeets them down this corridor, like vertical corridor you can see right there, and it's a clear straight shot all the way down. If I can go all the way down, and then they'll land on this block. Now, I can actually try and demonstrate this right here. How would I do this? I'll just run the full thing. So I will yeet these into here, and you'll see them get used to the cross and get stuck there, and yeet it across, and you'll see they'll all get pushed down once the trapdoor opens, and then you have the whole stack like that. Now, obviously you wouldn't use this just to filter one stack, because this is a crazy system just to filter one item. The reason, because if you wanted to just filter one stack, you could use like a shulker box sorter, which even does even more. The reason we do this is because of how fast it can sort that one stack. It's no longer capped by hopper speed. It's capped at how many shulker boxes you can break and how fast the items can get pushed around and these fence gates can reset. So they get pushed across and pull, and then it continues through this entire system. And one thing to note is that it's the same filter on both sides. This is white concrete, this is white concrete. The reason we have to do this is because we align the items to either side, and we don't know whether the white concrete's gonna appear on or get stopped on these two pressure plates or these two, so we don't know whether it's gonna stop on the right side or the left side depending on which one it hits. So we have to sort for all possibilities on both sides. So that's basically how this entire system works, because it's really just that stacked a bunch of times, alternating the slime and honey. And the other thing to note is that you have to keep this water level above 5, or 5 blocks of the water level. So this is 5 blocks right here, and then you have to reset the whole thing back to 5. The reason we do this is because it keeps the items floating. It doesn't let them get low enough to where they can sink through and just go into this hole right here. And this system is absolutely insane and amazing at sorting large quantity of items. This is not regular storage tech. You wouldn't use this for your farm, or not for your farm, for your regular storage system, because the amount of items that it can output, if the system is running at its full potential, the amount of items it puts into this block is faster than what a reasonable amount of hopper speed, or whatever hopper speed shulker box fillers or sorters you want to put and throw at it. It will not be enough to handle for this system. It will not be able to handle the system's output. So this is a very weird thing where its use cases are very specific. I've seen this used in tree farms, which could be a really great output, and it'll output to here, and maybe you can figure out a way to filter it, or what you could have is some carpet bots just taking the items and putting them in shulker boxes, and those get automatically broken. Another scenario I see them using is raid farms, but it's only those types of farms that output such volume of items that you need something as absurd as this. So we're actually going to run the system right here, and I'm just going to put this shulker box of items right here, and I'm going to chuck them in, and all of these are filtered into right here. The one thing is, there's one item that's not filtered, and this will prove to you that it does sort very precisely what colors into what spots. So we'll just chuck this in right here, and you'll see the box is broken, and they get yeeted and placed, and then they get split. And I think this is really satisfying, as well as the sounds. And you see how it went through that entire box, and then you see, and that's all it took. That's how fast this system is. And you can see right here, it's all sorted apart from this block right here. Now, what happens if we go into this block right here? You see it's filtered light blue concrete. If I go into my box, no light blue concrete inside. This is cyan concrete. So this proves that this isn't just randomly sorting. This is actually sorting. So I can even do this with even more boxes right here. So if I could fill this entire thing, but I'm just gonna do half. So it just breaks the boxes, and you can see the input rate is absolutely insane. So you need some crazy farm to match this input rate. But you can see right here, you can see all the individual colors being sorted. And it's absolutely bonkers. You can see right here, all of the items going into their individual slices. And yeah, it's just really incredible. Now, technically the only limit right here is how fast we can power and unpower these pistons and this line right here, because we have to space this long enough for this to go down this right path and go down into one of these filters, like you see right there. You see, you have to wait for this hopper right here to cool down and allow that other item to be filtered and go through the system. And technically that happens on both sides, but just for one side, we're only limited by this right here. We could theoretically make this even more faster, but there would be no point because we wouldn't be able to filter it. Now, one way you could overcome this is you could speed this up, but you would add more of the same filter. So instead of just having one slice here per filter, you would have to have 2 or 3. That is one way of doing it, but at this point when you're sorting this many items, as you can see right here, it's getting absolutely crazy. If I just turn on hitboxes, you can see the amount of items here. It's absolutely crazy. But the crazy thing is that it's almost done sorting. You can see there's only like a handful of items left in that stack, and that's all it took. That's all it took to sort a full or half a large chest of shulker boxes that are pretty much full. One thing to note is that this doesn't matter about stack size. It will sort 1 or 2 items the same speed as it will sort a full stack, because it works off of the group of items on the floor, the group of items on the floor. You see how it sorts. So regardless whether that's one item or the full stack of items right there, it'll sort that all at the same time. So this right here is only a fraction of its possibility. If you fed it full shulker boxes, you could do the same. But I wouldn't really see an application with this being used right here. This is just for like testing purposes, I guess, unless you want to do some insane mass crafting or something. It would be more for farm inputs, and then yeah, just overall really insane thing. Like if I just go over here, it fills up my inventory instantly. It probably overfilled, to be honest, but yeah. Oop, yeah. So overall, a insane system in my opinion. This has got to be one of the coolest things I've ever seen, especially for sorting and how it sorts it. It's just such a smart way of doing it. And yeah, thank you for watching.